mercy, yeah.
Surely goodness and mercy shall follow us all the days of my life. And we no one, no wish to be, we no evil man.
We no roll for.
Cause there comes a day when there be we.
By who?
By the Father's hand. Live up God's street. We are gonna live it up, live it up, live it up. Live up God's street.
Listen, I'll tell you one word again then now. Goodness and mercy, oh yes, it have a fall away. Once we see the righteousness fly, I like a butterfly. Look, it have a multiply and that, man have a testify. Magnify me Lord and me King. Yo, no we not be friend and keep no evil as companion. Choose a friend them carefully, that's simply my opinion. Love is priceless, so the mention no million. Your billion, your trillion. Why yo, live up!
Live up God's street.
We are gonna live it up, live it up, live it up.
Live up God's
We
street.
are gonna live it up, live it up, live it up.
My hands anointed
And my
like a
cup
blind old.
Surely goodness and mercy, yeah.
Surely goodness and mercy shall follow I
all the days of my life.
Straight up to the maximum for the world. Yeah, man.
Oh well now. Oh well.
Live up.
Live up God's
We
street.
are gonna live it up, live it up,
Oh yeah. Live up God's
we
street.
are gonna live it up,
Live up. Live up God's
we
street.
are gonna live it up, live it up.
Live up God's street. Whoa,
We
yeah.
are gonna live it up, live it up,
Oh yeah.
live it up.
Now this is shot up alongside lightning. And the God we serve, great, powerful and mighty. Don't take this song lightly.
We are gonna live it up.
We rightly differentiate between love and hate.
Live up God's street.
We are gonna live
Never
it up,
separate.
Forever and ever. Oh yeah.
we are gonna live it up,
For the world.
live it up.
Boop, 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 boop.
Hey, I'm closing chapters, I'm turning pages, glory to glory, and from faith to faith. I'm moving on, I'm moving on, I'm moving on. I'm getting older, so I'll keep it straight. It hurts to let go, but it hurts more to stay. I'm moving on, I'm moving on. Hey, I'm moving on. Hey, 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 hey. I know my real view can't compare to what God will do with my life. And I am forgetting what's behind me. I am finally decided I'll be moving on. I'm moving on. I'm moving on.
My mother told me, she told me well.
Forget your failures and forgive yourself. I'm moving on.
I'm moving on. I'm moving on.
Hey,
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 hey. I know my real view can't compare to what God will do with my life. And I am forgetting what's behind me. I have finally decided focusing on what's inside me.
Christ ahead and I'm just in this body. Never would the love be spotted. I pride myself on bringing light to your parties. Holy Ghost, you rectify the mind, I'm naughty. Without you, it's powder, I'm a dryland. Without your power, I'm a nightmare. Nothing but trouble saying bye, man. Can't have too much on the diamond. My brother called me, I could drop me. Told me we moving, I'm in God's hand. Yeah. Told me we moving, I'm in God's hand. Bring my moving truck in.
Gotta go. I'm moving.
Told me we moving, I'm in God's hand.
I'm moving.
Told me we moving, I'm in God's hand. Told me we moving, I'm in God's hand.
Boundaries, a future where everything is possible without limits, full of love and wonder. So explore, create, rethink your limits, exceed your potential. The future is here.
New Season Worship Center, located at 4660 North University Drive. Welcome to a brighter future.
Good evening, good evening, good evening, New Season. It's Thursday. And we are here, another day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. I love how we recite that and say that every day, every morning. It doesn't matter what time of day, because it's just an awesome declaration. And so, good evening, Facebook. Good evening, newseasonfm.com. Good evening, YouTubers. Good evening. It's always an honor and amazing to have you guys there. And hey, Facebook is always in the room with us. Denai J, good evening, afternoon. Sister Selma, Sister Jasmine, awesome to have you guys there with me this evening. Do me a favor, go ahead and share the live broadcast and invite all of our listeners and all our community members to join us, because it's gonna be awesome. And because I'm here, hello, come on guys. Yes, this is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Absolutely. You know, every day that we are breathing, every day that we are alive is a day to be thankful for. It's been a great day. It's been a good week. And just a quick little story. My mom called me earlier in the afternoon, and I was good. I was good. My spirits were good. But she heard it in my voice that I was about to say something like, not so in a positive light. And she reminded me, she said, remember when you were in the hospital? Remember when you couldn't walk? Remember when you had to walk all over again? I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. And right there was a moment to just say, I'm sorry, God. I'm blessed, and I'm thankful for everything that I have been through, for where I was, for what I have overcome, and for where I am today. And so, that's moments where the devil wants to get in your mind and take away your joy and bring back negative thoughts. And we have to do exactly that. We have to turn it around for good and remember where God has brought you from. And I'm grateful. So let's never forget that. Always remember where God brought you from. Control your thoughts. Your thoughts are powerful, but your thoughts are yours. You control them. I control my thoughts. And so I'm grateful that I had my mom just redirect me there real quick to a positive, to a positive note. Yes, it makes you stronger, but God. And Sister Jasmine, I'm getting goosebumps, as we're talking about it, because it's things that we don't want to remember, because they're not, enlightening and positive, in our minds. But it's things that we should remember, in the sense that we have to keep going. remember where God brought you from, and that will definitely give you the strength to continue and get to your purpose and your passion and your calling for this world, for this life. And I love what the song was saying before we began. It says, can't compare to what God will do in my life. Nothing compares to what God will do in your life. And you have to focus on what's inside of you. Is that going to be the positive thoughts, the negative thoughts? What's going to be inside of you? So that was just a powerful moment. And so this week, it's been a fun, busy week. We've been here in our station and in New Season Worship Center, just working and really so many enlightening moments this week, just to be grateful and honored that God uses us, that God uses New Season Gospel FM, that God uses New Season Worship Center to reach so many in a day-to-day basis. Is just incredible. So I'm going to share with you guys a little story of what I experienced this week here on a personal note. We've had camp, and we've had several students here doing the music camp, which has been amazing to see, and their progress. So it's very exciting. And we have one of our helpers, one of our instructors, has introduced me in this case to his children. He has a baby girl and a young boy, adorable, beautiful children. And his boy has autism. And so I didn't know him. He didn't know me before now. He had no idea what I do in regards to the disability services. And so when I learned about him, his name's Dorian, I was like, right away, I'm like awing and wanting to learn more about him. And I got to meet him. And today was incredible. He was here with us, just hanging out. And we were playing on the iPad and, just going over the books and doing different activities together. And by the middle of I'm already melting from the beginning because it's my passion, it's my world. And by the middle of the day of just dedicating time to him, he warmed up to me. He gave me a hug. He was pulling me by my hand like, hey, come back. Where are you going? Because he also wanted to be like, it was a new place for him, so he was very curious, and at the same time he would pull me and just spending time, and it was so sweet, super sweet. I was literally like, oh my gosh, in tears. And so it was an amazing experience just to see him and how happy and comfortable he was with all of us, and how he was embraced, and the other kids that were here as well, just totally embraced one another. It was beautiful to see without even she was bawling, guys. Yes, I was literally bawling. Don't judge me. Without even saying anything as far as his diagnosis or anything, he was just embraced, and it was beautiful to see. And that, I always talk about community. That was an amazing sense of community for the week, really, because he's been here several times, even in short moments. It's been awesome. And so one particular student, though, asked me, why can't he speak? Mind you, he can speak, come to find out, very well. But this young man hadn't heard him speak, and he was like, why can't he speak? And so I took that as a perfect teaching moment to explain to him why he had difficulty speaking. And we went over it, and it was like, okay, he can say his words, he can't speak, he's just here among us all. And it was a teaching moment. He embraced the explanation. This young man embraced the explanation. He moved on with his day, and they were all living happily ever after. They just, enjoyed each other's company, and everything was okay after that. So with that, I learned once again that children are curious, they want to ask questions, and it's okay for them to do that. We want them to do that. Personally, I want them to do that because I want them to learn that we are different, and it's okay, and it's okay to embrace it, regardless of what that difference is. And yes, exactly, you want them to ask questions. You never want them to feel any type of way as far as them not being able to ask questions or being scared. You definitely want them to ask questions. And so definitely that was a perfect teaching moment. And so you never know why you meet people. Like, of all music teachers in the world, here's an individual that comes who is absolutely amazing to help us with the students. His son has autism, and I'm like in awe because everything connects. That is the sense of when God has you in a path, he will open the way for you. He will make it happen. And God will make a way where there seems to be no way. Who's the one that thinks there is no way? That's us in the human body. But when God is involved, God will make a way. And I absolutely love that. And I love that song. I love that song as well. God will make a way. And so it was amazing. So with that, I thought, okay, so this was a perfect teaching moment for the kids that asked questions. We went over it, went about our day. The young man Dorian stayed here. He didn't want to go home. He didn't want to go home. He was comfortable. He was good. And so, how do you talk to your kids about disability? Let's say specifically in this scenario, because of the situation, or because of the experience rather that we had today and this week, how do you talk to your young boys and girls about differences and disability in particular? As Mina mentioned earlier, yes, you want them to ask questions. Unfortunately, we oftentimes are scared of the response, or we're scared of what that other person is going to think. So we tend to shush, to shush them, for a lack of a better term. And no, don't ask questions. No, yes, we want them to ask questions. We need them to ask questions. So please let them ask questions. And so, in doing some research and just knowing from experience, rather, is how do you talk to your kids about disability? Okay, so there's so many tips on how to do this. And yes, God always has a perfect plan. God's plan is perfect for us. And He just connects the dots all the way around. And it was absolutely incredible. So, the first thing that we want to do is provide education in a matter of fact manner. So in a way where it's factual, like we're not making it up, it's a fact. So how do you do that? By others' experiences, depending on the age of the child or the teen or the young adult, you go into statistical information, numbers. I love using testimonies. So giving testimony of what other individuals with disabilities either have lived through, have experienced, or even better, what we have had to overcome despite that particular disability. I always like to say it's despite of, not because of, because it doesn't define me. It's a part of me, and it's part of my experiences that I live on a day-to-day basis. And I think that's a very important detail to express to anyone of any age that is inquiring or wanting to learn more about that particular individual. So provide education in a matter of a fact type of way. The second one is explain how people with disabilities may use adaptive equipment. So right away, when we think adaptive equipment, maybe we think, like technology and that kind of big equipment, but it could be something as simple as a cane, a wheelchair, crutches, a hearing aid, which oftentimes is not very visible, or an iPad. Like I know, for example, with Dorian, the young man that I met this week, a lot of times with his diagnosis, they use an iPad for communication or as a communications device. So really explaining what device is being used and why. And depending on the age of the child, that will give the understanding of, okay, well, this is what's happening, right? Or this is why they use this particular assistance to help them in this type of way. Pointing out similarities. That's like so important because a lot of times we focus on the differences. We focus on what that person cannot do or why they cannot get around like everyone else. We focus on everything that makes us different, and we forget to mention or to review what makes us the same. And I'll never forget, I was an ambassador for Seeds of Change program several years ago. And as the ambassador in Broward County for this program, my job, if you will, was to go to elementary schools in Broward County and educate third, fourth grade classes on disability, on similarities, and on differences. And so, the first thing that I would always do was stand in front of the classroom, and then they're looking at me, they're doing their thing, and I would say, okay, how are you and I different? And I'm there walking with my cane, I'm waving it in the air, I'm doing whatever I can for them to like kind of notice my difference, which is walking with a cane. And they wouldn't tell me. You have black hair, I have blonde hair. You are short, I'm tall. You're wearing red, I'm wearing blue. They would tell me all of these differences and never mention the disability. So that's to tell you the innocence of a child. How oftentimes they don't even notice those differences, and that kind of happened today, and that was awesome because it was embraced and we moved on. So pointing out the similarities, I think psychologically, regardless of the age, lets us know, okay, we are more similar than we are different, and we're all human. It's kind of like saying we all bleed red, regardless of our backgrounds, right? Regardless of anything, we all bleed red. We're all human. And so pointing out those things that makes us similar is so much better than focusing on that which makes us different. And the point of that program that I was ambassador for was to eliminate bullying in the school system. And so, yes, absolutely, the numbers of students that experience bullying was a lot lower in that program because we were teaching students to embrace differences and not act upon or want to punish anybody for being different, So I wish that program still existed. It was amazing, and I think it's very, very much necessary. So pointing out similarities, and then learning about disability together. I don't think that's something we do enough as a community, learning about disability together, because unfortunately as a society it's kind of like we've still grouped disability as being something different, set aside. Not all the time, but more on a professional basis. It's like anything, it turns into a number, it turns into a dollar sign, so now we're like more divided than we are together in that sense. And educating is so important. Learning together and educating starts at home in many cases. In this particular subject, if you're not familiar, if you're not exposed to others with a disability, then maybe it wouldn't be something that you're so familiar with in that regard. But we should definitely try to find ways to educate ourselves on different disabilities, on subject matters related to disability, but also too in knowing, regardless of whether they have a disability or not, regardless if it's a young age, middle age, or a grandma and grandpa age, respect is respect across the board, regardless of the differences, regardless of disability, regardless of any of that. And so I think that's more important. And so when that particular child or children see a difference, then it wouldn't be such a big deal, if that makes sense. And it creates so many positive traits in a human being, empathy, sensitivity, those things that can definitely shape a young boy or a young girl from childhood to teenager to adulthood. Those teenagers that hurt animals. Where's the empathy? Where's the sensitivity? So I definitely think it's helpful to learn about differences in disability very, very early on. So provide education in a matter where it's understood. Explain how people with disabilities may use adaptive equipment, whatever the equipment might be. Point out similarities versus focusing on our differences, and learning about disability together. Nowadays, there's documentaries, there's Crip Camp. If you guys have not seen that documentary on Netflix, I encourage you to do so. Crip Camp, that tells or talks about how the ADA of 1990 began, which is the Americans with Disabilities Act, the Education Act, and so many others. It's really good. It's a really good tool to learn with your children as well. It's called Crip Camp. Also, to prepare for tough questions. Okay, as me, for example, as a person with a disability, it's a statement for me to prepare for tough questions. If I'm saying to all of you and anybody listening that it's okay to ask questions, I have to prepare to answer any question that I am asked. Not only answer them, but another very important aspect is to answer them honestly. So if somebody comes up to me and says, why do you walk that way? I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm going to let you know exactly why I walk the way that I walk, or why I'm slower, or why I have certain difficulty. I'm going to be honest about it. Because if I'm not honest with you as the person asking me, I'm not being honest with myself as the person living with that difference. Good evening, Minister Brown. Thank you for joining. So I hope that makes sense. We have to be honest. We have to be honest and prepare for the tough questions, and make it okay to ask those tough questions and answer those tough questions honestly. For example, that goes, like I said, somebody with a disability themselves. If I don't admit that I have a learning disability, okay, if I don't admit I have a learning disability and it takes me more time to grasp a particular subject, or I have more difficulty in mathematics, then I can't expect to get accommodations, extra assistance, extra time on test at a college level, because I'm not being honest as far as my needs and my particular hardships when it comes to learning, right? So honesty with yourself, with others, is very, very important as it pertains to whatever diagnosis and disability that you're living with. So prepare for the tough questions. Make it okay to ask. Teach kindness and sensitivity to others. It sounds easy, right? Teaching kindness and sensitivity to others. I think that as a person that believes so much in diversity and inclusion, as someone that has learned so much from that, I think that's everything. Because if I'm constantly just revolved or surrounded by people with spina bifida, or people, Hispanic people that only, that look like me, or that act like me, or that only relate to me in that particular way, then what happens when I'm in an outside environment of non-Hispanics, people that don't look like me, people that don't have a disability? How am I going to act? We're going to have no idea. So it's very, very important to teach kindness and sensitivity to others, and teach that it's okay to be different, that we are different, as it pertains to our disability and our cultural background. And we have to embrace that. And how boring would it be if we all look alike and we were all exactly the same? That would not be fun at all. It's the same way as we always mention, how boring would it be, if we were all the same, even in church, even, with the word of God and prayer, everything the same. No, We are unique and wonderfully made and all blended together. All blended together for the work of God. And that's a pretty amazing thing. So teach kindness and sensitivity to others. Tell your children to ask before helping. And if it's an adult, ask before helping. So, as people with disabilities, I've been there, I'm guilty. We are too often, and I believe I've mentioned this to you guys before, too often we are trained to say it like that, right? We're trained to never say I can't. You're strong, you're independent, you can do everything on your own. No, we can't. No, we can't, nor should we. As people with disabilities, we have to make it okay to ask for help, to receive the help, and in turn, as the public and the people around us, it's okay for anybody else to ask for help. It is okay, or it is okay rather, for you to ask me or someone else that you see if that person needs help. What is not okay is for you to volunteer the help without being asked or without being told that it's okay. So if you see somebody having a hard time rolling their wheelchair on a rug, do you just go run behind them and push them? No. You go walk up to them and you ask them, hey, can I help you, or do you need help? And let them say yes or no. Sometimes we do it unconsciously because we just want to help, and that's okay. But it's a disability etiquette item that is very important to understand, is ask the person before helping them. And I think that's universal. That's not just people with disabilities, that's anybody in general. I think we just focus too much on that division and focusing on disability, but a lot of these things are universal across the board, which is pretty cool. So teaching kindness, tell your child to ask before helping, and if it's an adult, ask before helping. Keep your emotions out of it. This is a big one. This is a tough one. Keep your emotions out of it. And if you say something about disability being sad or awful, your child may pity that person, and people with disabilities are not looking for pity. And that is a societal thing where a lot of times people have that pity mindset. Ay, pobrecita, especially in the Hispanic culture. Well, poor thing, pobrecita, why did God do this? Or, what did her parents do to deserve a child like that? The pity. And we don't want to hear that, because we're human and we want to live a life like everybody else. We want to be independent. We want to be included. And our parents fought for us to be a part of this world in that manner. So, no pity. If you wouldn't pity anybody else with any with no disability, then don't pity someone because of a mindset that currently exists, that we won't be able to do whatever it is that you might think we can't do. And then a lot of times we live by our assumptions on that particular individual versus reality. So there's assumption versus reality. Are you assuming that we need to be pitied because of whatever situation we're living, or is that a reality? So the media and statistics and all of that does a really good job at focusing on the pity versus on, this number of people with disabilities work. This number of people with disabilities graduated from college. That's what we need to be focusing on versus what we have not been able to accomplish in life. So controlling our emotions is really important. And lastly, don't allow your child to engage in mean-spirited behavior. Make it known that imitating people with disabilities or just someone that is different as a whole isn't kind, nor is it okay to laugh at others. And what's interesting to me is that a lot of times we have our quote-unquote community leaders expressing these same behaviors, yet we're the ones advocating for these behaviors to stop. And I'll give you an example. I don't know if you guys remember. You can let me know in the comment box. I can't remember exactly when it was, but former President Trump was caught, if you will, mimicking a young man with cerebral palsy, and that became a headliner in the news because he was mimicking him and he did those not so nice gestures, and that wasn't nice in many, many aspects. I mean, as a leader of the country, you don't do something like that. As a human, you don't do that. And this young man that he was mimicking, a college graduate in politics, super bright, and his son has autism. So that made no sense to me whatsoever, but it happened. And as leaders, we cannot show, express, or encourage that kind of behavior. So don't allow your child to engage in mean-spirited behavior at all whatsoever. And if you guys know of any trainings needed, any agency, any organization, any group, any human resources departments, anyone at all that can use training on disability etiquette, which is how to work with individuals with disabilities in their leadership programs, please let me know. I would be more than glad to help and to direct and to provide those trainings, because it's very needed and it's very important, and we have to make it okay. And we have to know that all of these companies, organizations, all of them except for like the mom and pops in our local community, are required by law to be ADA compliant, inclusive in the workplace, meaning hiring both individuals without and with disabilities, and therefore receive training for their staff members on disability etiquette training. And I'm your girl. So if you know anyone, please reach out to me. Yes with Yesse. You guys know how to reach us here. You can email me at yeswithyesse@gmail.com. That's YES, yes with Yesse, YESSE @gmail.com. And you can always call us here, 954-533-8187. So it was my joy, as always, to be here with you guys. I love it, love it, love it, love it. And it was an amazing day, amazing experience with my friend Dorian. Hope to see him again. And that's what it's all about, guys. Living together in the community, working together, embracing each other, and living happily ever after. Literally, that's all it takes. So, as you guys know, it is Thursday. Tomorrow is Fun Friday, and you will be joined by Minister Brown, as Pastor is still out of town. We miss him, but he will be back very soon. And I will see you guys next week on another episode of Yes with Yesse and Latino Monday. So don't forget, guys, to join us again next week. Like and share and invite your friends. I know you guys have Latino friends somewhere. Invite. And don't forget to please support your favorite station. Remember that our CDs are still available for your donation of just $100. And so if you comment here or you send an email to Season FM Radio, yes with Yesse, yes ma'am, Season FM Radio @gmail.com. Once you send your contribution, we will get that CD to you, and it's amazing. So until then, guys, don't forget tomorrow with Minister Brown. We will see you guys on Sunday for our Sunday service, and then all again next week. Have an amazing weekend. And yes with Yesse @gmail.com for all of your inclusion, disability needs, and information. We're here for you. So until next time, guys, please share the broadcast, and we will see you again soon.
I can see that you're trying very hard to live the right way. That old devil is waiting by your side just to lead you astray. temptation. All you got to do is reach out, take my hand. I told you that I will love you not only now, but forever. I would have a one that crossed the same way I did if you were the only one. So when life seems so raging on your thing, you're going under.